Welcome to the Mastering Podcast. I'm the host, Magnus Olsen. I'm joined by my favourite co-host, Don Sanka. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Always a pleasure when I'm spending time with you.
No, last week I think you're the powerhouse of education, mate. What's been happening this week?
Track and field is having its golden era, in my opinion. And we said we were going to bring a few masters of the sport and give the spotlight to a few local athletes and coaches. So got a couple of guests that's building probably one of the largest squads here in Queensland. They got some good talent as well. So I want to pick their brains and understand athletic development and ask a few questions on what the hell is in the water right now in Australia.
Yeah, Aussie track and field's in a good place at the moment. Hopefully we're not going to peak too early.
I don't know about peaking, but I think we're positioning ourselves really well for the 2032 Olympics. If we keep this up, the talent and the juniors that are coming up, we are in a good place.
Exciting times. Well, I might introduce our two wonderful guests today. So they're two generations with one mission. We've got Rajiv, who's a Olympian-turned-elite coach, and Maddie Scott was Australia's fastest junior and is now helping shape the next wave of talent. Welcome, boys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So you guys were both successful as individual athletes. Do you mind just taking us back to where your athletic journey started and what got you into athletics?
Well, I grew up in India, so I started running when I was probably 12 or 13 years of age. Started competing in local meets and so on, and then I had a good coach. A coach was very keen to teach. I wouldn't say great coach at that time, but very keen to learn, and I came from a small town. And he was very keen to see how fast or how we can produce athletes who can compete at the national level. So one thing led to the other. And then by the time I was 18, I won the nationals in India. And that got me an opportunity to go to America, to University of Iowa. I had a sports scholarship there. So I went and competed at Iowa for 4 years. I had very good coaches, good athletes to compete with. The first time I competed with athletes who were ranked in the world, which I hadn't seen before. So that gave me a different perspective of athletics, and then sort of continued training, went back to India, trained there, worked around in the Asian Games and the Olympics and so on, and then moved to Australia in 2000. I was competing here for a year or two, but then I found coaching is where I enjoyed the most. So I started coaching from then onwards.
So was 2000 Olympics, was that your last?
Yeah, and then the big meet.
So you retired after that?
Yeah.
Okay.
How old are you, Rajeev, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 54.
54,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm 56. So that's a great career. And being able to be competitive in India, because there's a fair old population over there, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of people, you can say.
Maddie, what about you, mate?
Well, actually, I started off as a rugby player, actually, originally. So rugby was my main thing, and then got into sprinting. I grew up in Brisbane, so I went to Anglican Church Grammar School, just around the corner from here, just in East Brisbane. So that's where I went Rajeev. So Rajiv was the coach there at Churchy for a long time. I was actually being trained by Sharon Dale at the time, very well. And then I moved over to Rajiv's squad and trained with him ever since. And then it was a choice between rugby and sprinting. Rugby I went pretty good with. I made some Queensland teams and things like that, and had to choose when I was 16, sort of 17, where I'd go. And at 16, I had a pretty breakthrough year for sprinting. So that got me from when I was sort of 13 through to 17. I was number one in Australia for the ones and twos sort of thing. So 100 and 200 was my main events, but 200 was definitely where I found more success. Always made the relays and stuff, but 100, my start wasn't the greatest. And won a few nationals and sort of got in that sort of top 10 as in the world as a junior at 16 for the 200. And then injuries took over from there. So after 17, I was sort of pretty injured from there, which sort of sent me into coaching. And then Rajiv and I started Future Athletics about maybe nearly 10 years ago, maybe 8 to 10 years ago now. And then went in straight from competing just because of injuries, and then into coaching with Rajiv, and we've been coaching ever since. So that's the story.
So Sharon Dale, we had Reese and Dr. Christopher Dale few weeks back. So Sharon was Chris's mom. As he mentioned, she's been coaching for about 30 years
long
in
time.
Brisbane. One of the longest standing coaches, probably one of the most successful as well. I was also coached by Sharon and Chris for a while as well. Can I ask, what was your 100 time, both of you?
It's easy one for Rajiv because he's a lot quicker than mine, but and he'll be very modest. Mine was 10.6. Rajiv was in those sort of low 10s, sort of around that 10.1, 10.2. He was very, very fast. Training ran a lot quicker, sort of in that sub 10 area, but just in competition he was unable to put it together. But yeah, that's sort of what we were in those hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I found out that Rajiv was the fastest man in India. So,
Number one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I held the national record in 94 to, I would say probably 94 to maybe 98.
What was the time?
Oh, at that time it was 10.40, then I'm 10.35, 10.34. So yeah.
My 10.34, that's pretty impressive. That's in the mid-1990s. Not many people would have run under 10 seconds at that time. So I think right now there's about 180 people who run under 10 seconds. In the 1990s, again, I'm not sure we'll put the numbers down when we get the episode out, but I don't think there would have been any more than 100 people who would have run under 10 seconds. So 10.3 was quite impressive. We didn't have the spikes that we have now. We don't have the tracks that we used to have. So that's good effort in mid-1990s to run 10 seconds. And most of the guys who ran under 10, as we all would recall, from some of the infamous races, were on some sort of...
Oh, big time. And probably the big thing that blew me away through Rajiv was he was doing a lot of 400 hurdles training and that sort of thing. He wasn't just a designated 100 runner, which is the most amazing part. So if you focus just on that and just train for that, it would be amazing to see what he got. But he was doing 4 hurdles and all that. And yeah, that's
you did the 100 and the 400 hurdles. Huh?
Yeah. I
thought I was the only idiot who ran 110 hurdles and 400 hurdles, which, against my coaches.
I think part of it, because I went to the American system is like that, because you go to the collegiate system and they make you do a lot of events for the points. So you always do the 110 meter hurdles and you do 400 hurdles and then you run a 4x1 and 4x4. So
tell us a bit about that, because a lot of young kids, their dream is to go and participate in the US collegial system. Yeah. A lot of the Australian athletes. So how does that system work?
Well, I mean, it's they recruit all over the world. The coaches have a certain budget. It's controlled by NCAA, the National Governing Body of Athletics, or any sports in America. So they decide how many scholarships can be given to every university. So if you're limited to, like at that time, it was 7 full scholarship, they call it. They can have 7 athletes, but the coach can distribute among 10 or 15 athletes, depending on if they want to give half scholarships and so on. So that's how you form the team. And then you compete for everything is paid for your education. If you're on full scholarship, your tuition fees, or what they call it, like your university fees, your accommodation and traveling and all that, everything is paid for. And you compete for the university. You can compete for 4 years. You're given 5 years, but within that 5 years, you can compete for 4, and you can do any degree you want, as long as you can get into the university, like into the department, I did engineering, but you have to get into it on your own.
Still have to,
on your own kind of academic marks and so on. But you can do any degree you want, and they pay for it. You have to maintain a certain GPA
level,
to compete for the university, but everything is pretty much taken care of.
Yeah, wow.
So it's a very good system.
How long did you spend over there?
Well, in the university, I was from 1990 to 95. But then after that, I trained as well, which was not part of the university. I moved to California. I was training there from.
So did you go pro, or was that still part of it?
Well, athletics professional is very hard. I mean, as much you got to have another job as well. But as much as you can.
Yeah. So were you sponsored by any of the?
Yeah, to an extent, the traveling, and there were companies in India which were sponsoring me at that time and so on. So it was as much as you can.
Yeah.
You still need to have a part-time job.
Yeah. So. Right, so the migration, how do we stop that? How do we keep our young athletes in Australia without We've got the 2032 Olympics coming. If there was any opportunity, you got one of the biggest squads, and both of you are coaches in two of the best schools programs as well. How do we keep our young athletes here? And because I think before we started the podcast, we talked about the fact that having the talent that then also creates more talent.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Rajiv says about that, because the way, probably the big thing, we both are at Brisbane Grammar School now, and we've seen a lot of, obviously with our future athletics, a lot of kids come through. Our biggest trouble is other sports. So it's not losing them so much to other places as such, but it's more to other sports. So even now we send out an itinerary, a list for every parent or child to fill out of their training roster every week for the term. So we do it term by term, just to know what other sports they have on. And that's probably our biggest challenge is we have so many kids doing so many other sports, and they do 2-3 sessions of this sport, and it's losing them to touch or rugby union or those ones that obviously those team sports that they either make to play. Athletics is very individual, so it's very hard to sort of keep them in it. You need your results and a little bit of fun, and that's where we sort of come in at, where especially those juniors and intermediate groups that we have, is just making them enjoy it as much as possible with a bit of variety. Otherwise, you'll just lose them to, like I said, team sports. That's probably our biggest one at the moment. What would you say?
Yeah, I think the toughest part for any athlete, any sport, is between 18 and 22. So yeah, juniors is fine. You're doing well in juniors, but to make the senior teams, unless you're one of those very gifted go to somebody who make the transition seamless, they're from junior to senior, winning everything. But for most of the people, it takes you by the time you're 24, 25 to crack into the senior.
Keep them in that.
Yeah, and that's a long time, 18 to 24, 25. A lot of things are changing. You're outside school, you got to pick up a job, you have to support yourself, and you have to train, and you're not really winning at the I mean, you're kind of there at the national level, but a lot of the kids are not winning the nationals. You're not making the team. So that's where I think you end up losing a lot of kids, 18 to 23, 24, 25. But I mean, Athletics Australia is doing a far better job now. They're providing athletes while the transition phase to send them to Europe to give them some exposure in the Asian circuit, a bit more funding to those things, because in the past, like, there would be a gap. Like, you make nationals, you make world juniors, and after that, for 4 or 5 years, what do? You can't just keep running the nationals and keep yourself motivated.
And also the programs are very different. You got your European program, which is at the end of our national program, so the summers and the winters doesn't line up. So there's a burnout there as well.
Yeah, so it's like the American system as well. That's why we've seen some good results from Australians in those diamond leagues, and the Americans not doing so much because they're in a different block. Yeah, they're in preseason while we're in trying to run our fastest times. So it's very different. Yeah.
So in your opinion, you said you've got all these young athletes, which we had Natalie Cook before. When she went through this journey, she did all the sports. Yeah. And she didn't decide, I think, what did she say, 15 when she decided what sport she was right at? So all these athletes go through this journey trying to figure out what the right sport is for them. And, track and field or little athletics becomes a bit of a gateway to figuring that out as well. So how, as coaches who run your own squads and being coaches of one of the most elite schools in Brisbane, how do you guide them in the right direction?
Probably the biggest thing is with us, and Rajiv and I are on the same page with this one, is we believe up until a certain age to do as many sports as possible. Because if they do athletics from a young age, which we do have some athletes, it's a long time to just be in that one sport. And you don't want them just doing track and field for 15, 20. Like it's because it's so individual, such an individual sport, it's quite hard to stay in, especially if you're not getting certain results. So biggest thing is we say to them, we want them doing as many sports as possible. Go and do those sports. Let us know when you're doing them so we can obviously not overload, but do as many sports. But by the time they sort of, what age would you say?
Grade 11?
Yeah, about grade 11, definitely probably around that grade 11 going into grade 12 is when you sort of start needing to sort of choose that sport, because that's where when you take that step from juniors to seniors, it's a big step, and you can't be playing touch or playing these other sports. It's just quite tough to do both. So we say up until that point, do other sports. And if that means doing less of ours, that's fine. we'll just fit it in other places and get them do it that way. But because what we see a lot of the time is a lot of overload as well with those other sports and athletics is all of a sudden they just start getting injured all the time. And then they're being forced to give away sports, which we don't want. So we want them to enjoy it and then eventually just fall into that track and field space.
Are you guys in the schools, at the school, are you specifically just training track and field athletes, or is it more of a athletic running pedigree that you're chasing?
No, so I'm currently the athletics director there. So I run track and field and cross country. So that's my focus. So I run it there, and I've got Rajeev in to run the sprints and hurdles for that. So it's just track and field focused. Brisbane Grammar's setup is when other sports are on during term 1, 2 and 3, when other sports, rugby, for example, in term 3, we can't touch the rugby players. So our rule is when rugby's on, the rugby players are doing rugby. It's when track and field and they don't have any clashes, then and track and field season's on in term 4, they just do track and field, and then rugby can't touch them. So we're very, very track and field based in that school area. In the future athletics, we're all events in that space for sure.
What age group of athletes are you working with?
Well, we've got 3 different groups now. So we've got juniors, which is sort of 7, 8-year-olds till about 10, 11. And then we've got intermediate, which is 12 to 17s. And then our opens, which is obviously 18s and up. We've got a few master athletes now, which is good. So that's starting to, and I think you would know in that space, masters is definitely taking off as well. The numbers are increasing. So we've got a couple of really good Nat and Flavio in that space at the moment who are doing really good. I think
Fabio absolutely killed it at the Nationals.
He killed it. He did really, really well. And Nat did amazing as well.
Yeah.
Nat was super proud of, because Nat we've worked with for a little bit longer. And she's just killing it. I think she won that many gold medals. She lost count by the end, so she's doing really well.
I think she did everything.
She did everything. High jump. Any event she can do, she just loves it.
But if you can be a masters athlete and do every event,
and still come back in one piece.
One piece. That's what you need.
Yeah. So,
what about technology? How important is that for you guys with training?
Actually, interesting one on that is, and the way that we're set up is very similar to what Rajiv came through with his India base, and he can dive a little bit more into that. But with his coming through his teen years in India, they didn't have much technology. They didn't have much accessible to them to use. So his coach, we're on a podcast recently talking about how his coach used just, how would you say it? Used training techniques and things just off not much equipment and things like that, just different training ideas.
In California or in?
No, this isn't back in India. I think the point more is being innovative, like finding what it's like when you see a young athlete is to how you can make them improve and how to keep it fun, and like you're trying to teach them different things, but also being innovative. I don't think you need a lot of equipment and stuff like that. It's just trying to see what you can come up with to make them improve.
But having data helps, right? We are moving more and more into a data-driven world.
Massively,
You can collect a lot of data.
Just wearables.
Wearables,
data,
yeah.
And, you got 1080 sprints and a lot of equipment now popping up.
Yeah.
They're not cheap, very expensive, because I think
they're pricey.
They're at the infancy of where they need to be, but they collect a lot of valuable data.
Yeah.
How do you think that's going to change? We had the one end of the spectrum, which is Chris, who's 100% into all the data. He
loves his technology. He loves his data.
Data nerd, and he's got he's got that like absolute sort of insight into that data-driven model.
Yeah.
Where do you think where is that happy medium?
I think it's you need to know what you got to know what to do with the data. You can collect a lot of things, but if you don't know what to do with it, it's always like some of it you're limited with. All the numbers. I mean, like especially in athletics, there's not a lot of variability in terms of sprinting. So if you want to run a 400 in say 44 seconds or something like that, you need to run the 200 in 20.5.
Yeah,
I mean that's your baseline.
I love when two coaches say exactly the same thing. Because we had Chris say the exact same thing.
So these numbers are kind of, everybody knows these numbers, right? But so you can collect all the data, but if you have a kid running 22 seconds, you can't make him run 44 with all the technology you got. Yes, you can. You got to find how we can make the kid faster first, 22 to 21 to 20 point before you can look at these big picture, right? So certain things, yes, data helps and you can use it. but a lot of it is like every athlete is individual, and you got to find where we can find the improvement for that person, and then you got to be as innovative and as creative as you can to within limits to teach them what you're trying to teach to get there.
That's where the experience comes, right?
Yeah.
If you haven't been there and done that,
Oh, massively. And
it's really hard to relate to an athlete.
And it comes in those situations where you've got all this data, but it's just not working for that athlete. And it's knowing what to do next, or think outside the box and think of, okay, we've tried this. This is the data. It's not working. Where do we go from here? And it's just thinking of ways to improve. Yeah.
Rajiv, has it been something from your experience of obviously living in India and growing up in India, and then living and working over in America and training over in America and then now in Australia? Have you noticed any cultural differences, and do you adjust any of your training techniques to suit?
I think more than in terms of training, I think especially when I was in India, we used to train a lot more. We didn't know what to do. Like, so, you have this concept of the more you train, the better you will get. So you tend to do like that.
I think that's a cultural thing too.
Yeah.
It's the same thing growing up in Sri Lanka, probably around the same time.
Around the same time,
It's you run a lot.
Yeah, you run a lot. You think that somehow that's going to all come in together, but it sometimes it doesn't, in the sense that, say, if you want to, like, a good example, somebody gave it to me, was if you want to run 100 under 10 seconds, you got to cover the middle part of your 100 meters in 10 meters in 12, so it's 12 meters per second. So you got to cover 12 meters in 1 second or something like that to break. You have these numbers you got to achieve. So it doesn't matter. You can be able to run 10 kilometers in a very fast time, but that not going to help you to translate to that. So those kind of information, I think, was more available in America. Like, they kind of knew at that time for what event, what do you need to do. And main thing was also exposure to these athletes. I think that comes here. When you have someone else running faster times and you train with them and you're around them, you start believing, maybe I can do it as well. And I think that's kind of happening to the Australian athletes as well now. Like the younger juniors, they're running 10.2s. I mean, we never heard of these times. Like they're running 10.2s. The girls are running 11.2, like 15, 16-year-olds. I mean, these are the times we never thought. I mean, like, possible here.
So
at least.
That's the competition that allows for better competition, right? And that's where I think we are in that position, but we need to keep these athletes here.
Oh, exactly.
We don't want them to keep migrating to other countries because.
Oh, look, we just lost Tori Lewis recently. She's obviously moved over to Europe, I think it is, and now she's training over there. So it's just keeping that talent here. You're spot on.
Yeah.
What about nutrition? Is that something that you guys dive into very deeply with your athletes?
Yeah, definitely. We've got a nutritionist that we work with, Beck. She's with the QAS, and she works with our athletes pretty closely now. And we've got a camp that we spoke about earlier down at Runaway Bay at the end of this year with Sally Pearson and Denise Boyd coming down for that, and Beck's coming down to do a talk with all the parents and the kids. But yeah, definitely it's massive to us for that one for sure. It's more about what she's going to talk to them about is more diving into what to have on race day and what to have before and after trainings and during training sessions and how much, just to fuel you through those bigger sessions and comp days. But very important to us is nutrition for sure.
Yeah.
How much does the extracurricular activities and their personal sort of lives, how much do you get involved as coaches? Because, turning up on the track and the 2 hours you spend 5 times a week, and then you're competing with all of the other priorities.
Yes.
How much of that do you guys as coaches get involved in their mental health, nutrition, all of these other things that sort of they bring to the track for those 2 hours?
Probably the two big ones is their nutrition and their gym. One thing we found was a lot of kids were doing different gym programs and gym training with different schools and coaches, and it was quite hard because we would have our tough session was on a Tuesday afternoon, Lactic Tuesday, and they would go and lift on a Tuesday morning at school, and that coach didn't know that afternoon what they had. So we really struggled with that. So what Rajeev now and myself have got set up is we do gyms at the track with all our athletes now. We've taken over that. We just didn't want to keep seeing that happening going forward. So we're taking over their gym and their nutrition now moving forward. That's been something new that we've taken over.
Oh, wow.
So we're just slowly, progressively taking over that. But that's probably the two big ones. For the other sports, you just can't.
Yeah.
You can't, and we don't want to be those ones that say don't do this and don't do that. We're not going to do that. If we can provide a program that they want to come to and have enough fun with and find enough success, I think automatically themselves they'll want more and more of that and less of the rest. But we don't control too much of other sports, more just the gym and nutrition, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. Because the age group we work with, some of the younger ones, like, we do have what's their, like, at least for the term, what are the sports they're doing, trying to accommodate, then trying to help them out. If not asking them not to do it, but if they do it, this is how we can advise, like a couple of days of this and a couple of days of our training, because we want them to make that transition with their own kind of, like, when they say they want to do athletics, that's a good place to be in rather than forcing them to do anything. So kind of support them. And then,
have you noticed some of the other sports? I was just thinking, if it were a kid's doing athletics in term 4 and then the following year in term 3 they're going to go off and do rugby, that they're actually complementing each other, like he's going to be a better rugby player. And I'd probably like to hear from you first, Maddie, with your career when you were doing athletics and you're also doing your rugby, and were each one of those complementing each other?
Look, probably the easiest, athletics and my sprinting complement my rugby perfectly. It made me quicker on the field. It made the difference. But rugby-wise, to track and field, not so much.
So rugby training that you would have, even at a reasonably elite level, wouldn't make you a better sprinter?
No, not exactly, because we more, obviously you focus sort of on that. It's not doing a sprint and then having some rest and doing another sprint. It's more continuous. So it was more fair bit of fitness and contact and things like that. Whenever I'd come from rugby season into track pre-season again, or just any training, I was very unfit, very heavy. Probably the big thing was my body at that point. So I had to be a fair bit heavier for rugby. I remember I put on about 8 kilos or 9 kilos one year for rugby, and then came back, and I can say when I came back, I was slow, and I needed to lose some weight pretty quick. So Rajeev saw that. But no, it didn't. The rugby, the fitness, yes, complemented a little bit. I came back and I would say I was rugby fit, but the fitness and what you need for track rugby, no, definitely didn't help me that much.
Would that have attributed to your injuries? Because one of the things I see is the kids who are doing 2 or 3 things.
Yeah.
Most of the injuries, I would say, is because of the different types of. Yeah,
look, definitely. One thing we've found with obviously your sports like your rugby and your soccer is doing a lot of running in boots. It's what we found. We hate that they're in boots so often because boots are not supportive at all, and we find that they have a lot of shin problems and things like that. And they're going from doing so much running in boots, and then they come out onto the track, and then their bodies is just taking a beating. So when they come back, we put them in joggers for a long time instead of spikes. We put them on the grass and we keep them away from the track as much as possible. But definitely contributes because of the twisting and the change of direction and things like that. It takes its toll on the body. But yeah, I think it definitely has an effect injuries-wise.
You said, you guys have strength and conditioning and nutrition now. Not many squads would give that type of support or service.
No.
What about recovery?
Yeah, recovery is so we've just hired a guy, Jared Boswell, I worked with him at Churchy for 10 years. And he's just come over and he's taken over strength conditioning and recovery for us.
Okay. So your athletes have access to all of these services, so they can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they have access to all of it now because we've hired Jared on board as of part of Future Athletics. So now he brings that component to it. So he's taking care of the recovery. He's got access to a lot of technology and things like that for recovery and all the recovery boots and everything. So he takes care of all their recovery programs, all their gym programs. He comes to the sessions, and we've seen that make a massive difference. It allows us to take a step back and the athletes to hear from not just Rajiv and I all the time, a different voice and a different opinion, so that in the gym they're not just dealing with us. They've got Jared, who's that's his sole focus, is that gym and recovery space.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
When you're looking at the junior athletes, and then you're obviously working with adults as well, how does the training technique vary? And Rajiv, you take care of more of the older athletes?
Yeah, we work together for the juniors and the
intermediate.
Yeah, I think it's like at the younger age, you're just kind of exposing them to different things, the events. They're doing other things, sports sports-wise, and also they're kind of understanding what athletics is about. A lot of the kids, when they join the squad, they have no idea what this is all about. So for us, it's to kind of give them an exposure to not only sprinting, but other events as well, make it a bit of fun. So kind of preparing them for like we don't know what event they're going to be successful at. There are very few you can right away say, okay, you're going to be such an elite sprinter. You might be elite at the local level, but as you get to the next level, you're not fast anymore.
So just on that, how do you see that? What's the X factor?
Well, some things, when a kid runs or a person runs, you can see to an extent how much time they spend on the ground. There's some natural ability in that. But also we have had kids who didn't look that great and suddenly went on to become really good at 14. I mean, one of the
Roy Easton is a great example.
Make the 13, he didn't make the school relay, and he ended up running 10.4 before Guard broke the record in GPS. He ran 10.4. There are a lot of hurdlers like that who were not that great when they were young. But you see something in them, like first of all, is like they're kind of coordinated. They show some glimpses of some talent. So if you can put it together, but it takes time. Like most of our athletes who just come to our squad through, I don't know, school.
Yeah, school programs.
So they're built and not born. So you can actually build that athlete and they're not necessarily just born talented.
Yeah.
What about mentally? Because that's the thing you see the difference.
I've got to say though, you sorry to cut you off, but if you do have the talent, like if you look at someone like Guard, he's got an advantage over everyone else.
There's a few athletes, there's your Ash Maloney and things like that. There's ones that just, it didn't matter where they went or who they were coached by. They were always going to do well. And it's more about maintaining them and keeping them on the track.
Holder we had a few weeks back again. You know, that dude.
Just a gifted athlete.
So,
but you don't get, a majority of them are not like that. No.
That's why it takes time for us. Like most of our athletes who are doing very well in the under 20s, when they get to 18 or 23, 24, like that kind of stuff, we got some very good elite athletes in the squad. And all took time. I mean, they came in as normal kids at some of them 12, 13, 14 years of age. They've been with us for 10 years. It took us that much time to get them to that level. But
is there much work you do on them mentally? And is there anything that's a standout that you can see in the athletes from that mental perspective, mental strength, mental resilience? We've talked about a number of times on the show here in the past. So I'm just curious, is that something you can see with that individual athlete? They've got a level of tenaciousness, for example.
Yeah, I mean, you get kids of different types. Some kids, you can see right away they're born with it. Some kids are not confident, but as they get better in the sport, they start running faster. Then you can see that they're more confident. The way they walk, they go to the track meet, everything changes. So you also got to provide them the skill and the tools to be confident. You can't just say, if you're running 12 seconds and you're in a race of 11 seconds, doesn't matter how.
So does that play a big part of your coaching program? So it's not just a physical, and how much do you apply into the mental?
Actually, I am really interested in this because growing up, the mental game didn't exist in a coach's head. You just run, and the anxieties and all of that was all ignored, right? That part was never there, and it was like it wasn't my coach's problem.
Oh yeah, of course.
So has that changed? There's
definitely been a big culture change as well. As there's a lot more things on athletes' minds now. You've got technology and you've got all these other things, and now you've got Instagram and all these socials that we didn't have back then when we were sprinting. You didn't have these million things on your mind and looking at these messages of training and things like that. We just rocked up the track. We knew what we had to do. We spoke to our coach and you just went and trained. Definitely athletes now, it's more about the little things and little situations. Like you'll have ones that are just struggling on that day. They're just not feeling it. They're not feeling great. It's just about those little conversations about flicking that switch and just telling them, look, get through these last 2 reps. After these last 2 reps, you're done. You can recover. It's about just switching that mindset of, okay, I don't have 2 more reps to get through. It's you only have 2 more reps to go. After that, you're done. You can recover. You got plenty of time to rest.
But how, as a coach, how do you guys prepare for that and train yourselves? Because one of the the biggest things that's coming as we talk to more and more elite athletes, it's just that sports performance coaching piece is as important as the technical piece. Cedric and Riley talked about this. We had Dan Hunt. He was talking about that mental piece when Wayne Bennett was supporting him in that piece, and he called Wayne Bennett probably the best coach because of that, what he did. How do you, as coaches, how do you train yourself? to train?
I think it's every. I mean the what we tell the athletes when we're coaching them. It's an everyday thing. Like it's all the small cues and small tips you do how to get through that. It's all those adds up when you go to the bigger meet. So like how to perform. Basically, we're talking about training and how do you perform, and why do you get nervous and why do you get anxious? Is sometimes your mind is going all over the place. Like, oh, am I going to finish last? Am I not going to run well? What are people going to say? All these things are going through your mind that causes anxiousness. So kind of understanding the athlete, like, let's focus. If it's a hurdler, let's just focus on the first hurdle. Let's just think about that, block everything out. But that thing is not just for the track, but even in training.
Yeah.
Let's just focus on that one. Keep it once you cross the first hurdle, the second one, say it could be 100 meters, the blocks, kind of like dividing the race into bits and into parts where they can focus on it. And as long as we feel like if your brain has something to focus on and you're working towards something, even when you're sprinting, somebody watches 100 meter and just sees 100 meter. But there are a lot of things happening in an athlete's mind. But you can break it down in your mind what to focus on in different phase of your 100 meters or 200 or 400. As long as the athlete is thinking about these things or like focusing on that particular aspect, I think that reduces anxiousness. Anxiousness comes from like not anything to think about and the end result. So but we go through that every day.
Yeah. And that's probably, and on the top of that, it to answer your question on how we train ourselves, is being in that situation every single day with different ages. So as we have our junior, intermediate, senior group, you've got all different personalities, all different ages as they're going through different things. To train, being in the situation is the best training possible. Like we deal with athletes and different ages that have all different issues. And dealing with that on a daily basis is the best training you could possibly do. Because we deal with it at training, we deal with it during the day when they call us and have issues with schooling and grades and things like this. It's being able to deal with them at that time with what their issue is and being able to then get the best out of it. And to be honest, we've been throwing some interesting situations with different athletes and the young ones and going through school and things like that, and also being an athlete. And we've had to then think on our feet. And that, to be honest, that's the best training as coaches for us. Because after the last probably 5 years, now that our group's grown massively, it's definitely trained us compared to where we were 5 years ago. Completely different.
And you get different kind of challenges because the older athletes, they could have relationship issues, they could have work issues, all kind of stuff happening, and then they got to go and perform. Whereas the younger ones, the different, whatever the issues.
Yeah, the advice in the old days used to be you got to leave it. It's the same advice at work. Sometimes people give you, said you got to leave your problems at the fence or at the door. It's impossible. It's not realistic.
Oh, it's not. It's not realistic now, and it's more about you just got to deal with it face on and just on the spot, just get it out and fix it as quick as possible. Because otherwise, it'll just keep adding up and building up, and it'll eventually.
But unfortunately, we didn't have any other.
You didn't, and it wasn't really a thing, and you didn't hear it on TV every day that there was all these the mental health and all that. You weren't getting pushed down it through the news like you are now. Back then, it was nothing. It was just you train and you train hard, and so let's not talk about it. Let's just get this session done, and it was just dealt with differently back then for sure. Yeah. What
do you guys do personally to stay in shape?
Stay in shape? Oh, myself, I play a bit of footy myself, so I'm back playing a little bit. I'm dabbling into a little bit of sevens again, but I'm playing a fair bit of OzTag and stuff like that socially. So. And I go to the gym a little bit as well, not as much as what I'd like, depending on how busy my days are, but definitely a little bit of that and getting a little bit of running in and cardio and gym and footy's been my thing. Yeah.
How do we get the fastest man in India to get back to Masters athletics?
Good luck.
The way you guys are, I'm not fit at all. So
that's a frame of mind. We can change that. Get you back on. You'll be surprised if you start. Right?
I tell you, you still got it, but it won't happen. It won't happen.
It's an amazing title. The more I think about it, like the fastest bloke in India. I mean, that's a pretty big accolade, isn't it?
Point. The thing is, there's over a billion people in India, so that to be the fastest.
To be fair, everybody's not trying to run fast. So,
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter when you say
it's big, but it's not as big as you think.
I'd take it anyway.
Yeah, no, it's massive. Like I said, the modesty is always there, boys.
But you guys are if you look at all the disciplines you train in track and field, you guys are probably one of the more elite hurdling squads. So growing up, I was a 110-meter hurdler. That transitioned into 400 meters. So I have a passion for hurdles. And then I watch your athlete train every day. What hurdles? And you're a sprinter. Sounds like you did hurdles as well. How did you become this elite hurdle squad?
Well, I mean, my background is mainly been hurdles. I mean, I was sprinting and hurdling, but hurdling is what got me into, I guess, more success. Because I feel like, sprinting is, you can improve, but you need tremendous amount of talent.
Oh.
To make it right.
And it's so competitive.
It's very competitive. And even if you're very fast at a local level, international level, but adding a technical component to it just makes it.
But technically, the hurdle is, for me, it's a lot more difficult than the 100 meters needs talent plus power and technique.
Yeah.
Whereas hurdle is...
There's less competition, I guess, is what you're saying.
Part of less competition, but if you look at the requirements, say if I want to be an elite male 110-meter hurdler, you can run 10.5 or 10.6, even be a world-class 13.2, 13.1 hurdler. I mean, there are some physical aspects to it because the height of the hurdle is so high. You got to be a tall athlete. You got to be 6'1", 6'2".
Try telling that to Colin Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, he ran 9.9. So that's what I was going to say. If you're going to be 5'10", you're going to be a 9.9 runner. But say if you're not,
it's a good point.
And you're 6'1", 6'2", but you can run 10.5, you can find a way to be elite athlete. Same thing in the 400 hurdles as well. Like especially for female, the height is 76 centimeters.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Don would know. It's just very small. The girls are all 5'10". The height is so less.
That's the average height of a desk.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And at 76 centimeters, it's barely above their knee for these girls. And if you're running a 50 seconds, 400-meter flat, there's no reason not to do 400 hurdles because that puts you in the Olympic final. 50 seconds, right now, the way 50 seconds would barely probably get you out of the heats.
Especially if you have the height, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
So you add a technical component to it. It could be the speed, could be a long jumper. So the way we're approaching it is teaching the kids.
So you're saying LEBA should be a 400-meter hurdler?
Anybody should be a girl.
Because the big thing is, and Rajiv's always said, and sometimes when we're talking to parents and athletes, we're not telling you to stop the 100 and 200. We're not telling you to stop your favorite events. We're just adding something on. If you're going to go do hurdles, it doesn't mean stop the events you're currently doing. It's just adding something else on. Because if you make an Australian team for hurdles and all of a sudden a 100 runner pulls up injured, but you've also got this time down for 100, you didn't make the team for it, but you were up there, you might also make a 4x1 slot here and there. You can always be that backup. So it just gives you some more options, especially making those top teams, which I've learned from Rajiv big time.
I think it's good fun for the kids as well. Some technical events, and they seem to enjoy it.
So how do you become a hurdler? How do you become a good hurdler? Because it's so many components to it. You need speed. You need to learn how to jump over a stick. Once you get to a point, it's like over a meter. So how do you get someone there? And what do you have to do to be good?
Oh, I think it's a process. Like it takes time, especially for men's 110 hurdle because the height keeps going up.
Yeah.
For the female, it's a bit different, a bit easier, I would say, because the height is only one jump. For the male athlete, it keeps going up from 15, 16, 18, 20, and men's height. So you got to start. At every height, you're going to find the challenges, what they have to learn. But if you start at a certain age, I think you just keep working at it. There's no easy answer to that one.
It's crazy, right? You got to have 3 steps between those hurdles, and you're every time you jump, you're building more and more momentum.
Yeah.
But you still have to maintain those 3 steps.
Yeah.
How do you teach someone that? Like it's one of the hardest. For me, I found it was one of the hardest technical.
I think that's where when you start a bit early at 14, 15 years of age, because that 3-step never changes. You always take 3 steps, even on the height.
Regardless of the height, yeah.
So I think that's been built in you to take 3 steps.
So it's better to start earlier as a hurdler than trying to get in.
Especially the fear of it and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, that was literally what I was about to go into. Was the fear part of it is what Rajiv and I are doing, and what he's done for a while is he takes care of all the hurdles. It's amazing to watch, but he gets our younger ones, our junior ones into it. If it's 10 minutes as warm up, if it's every session, they just do a little bit here and there of the technique and the steps. And he just gets them just doing little drills of going over the hurdle and over the hurdle.
I've seen
and
that. I was wondering
yeah.
why you were, getting the hurdle.
And it's just 10 minutes. They might not be hurdlers. They might, but it also is great for plyometrics. It's great for some jumps. It's great for those plyometrics, all their sprinting
just for
to do.
what's plyometrics?
What is plyometrics? Oh,
any kind of jumping activity, you're trying to build explosive power, but if you have light, like anything jumping is considered a plyometrics, but it could be hard plyometrics as well, more like box jumps. All that comes under plyometrics, but hurdling because you're jumping over it is.
And about spending less time on the ground. So it's just about that, speeding up the process of spending less time on the ground and improve your sprinting and everything, to be honest.
What's the toughest conversation you guys have had to have with an athlete? Got a story for us?
Toughest conversation.
It's about lack of improvement. A lot of times what happens is you could do all the right things as a coach and you could be going through, this is more with the senior athletes, they could go through a great training block, but the times don't come. That's athletics, like it's not like the year after, the times might come because of what you did the previous year. Those are very tough, especially as the athlete gets older athletes, younger ones as well, but mainly with the senior athletes, when they're putting a lot of effort into it, obviously their life, their work, and they're juggling so many things, and the improvements don't happen. And the coach is the first place they come to. And,
it's always the coach's fault.
It's always the coach's fault. And look, to be honest, on the back of that is what I've found is one of the hardest ones is ones that have found a lot of success early on at a young age by either being a lot larger than the other kids and taller and a little bit more athletic and grown a little bit quicker, and then they've struggled later on and explaining to them the process of this is going to happen and why it's happening. That's probably the hardest conversation to have when they have success early on and then all of a sudden that doesn't continue like they thought or got told it was going to. That's definitely probably the toughest conversations I've had is explaining that.
How do you tell an athlete when it's time?
I think that the athlete decide for themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody.
As a coach, have you ever had to approach that?
More of laying it out, this is where we are at. I mean, what frame of mind they're in. If they still, I don't want them to, because for a lot of the athletes, when they start at 12 or 13 or 14, this has been their life, their social life as well.
Yeah, because that's what I was asking for. If you give the athlete the choice, they'd never want to leave, like most track and field. They'll find a way to keep staying, find a way in how to be part of it, because it's been their life for most of that.
But I reckon it's a positive. Why should you stop? And if the athlete's got that level of
But you have to have a realistic frame of mind on what you want to do.
Yeah, well, it's like anything. Like when I gave it away myself, I gave it away because I couldn't do it socially. I could only do it if I was going to be competitive, and if I wasn't going to be competitive and possibly win that. It depends what your goals are too. Mine was I would only do it if I was going to be competitive at nationals and make Australian teams. And at that point, my body wasn't letting me. So no, I didn't want to do it socially. And I gave it up real quick. And it's just different. Depends what your goals are. Yep. Depends what you want to do.
There's some older athletes who are kind of 27, 28, and they've done it for so long, and they know they're not going anywhere. Kind of get involved as helping as coaches as well, keep them involved in the sport, because they have a lot to. Yeah.
Get them hands on with the junior program a little bit, and so that transition's a little bit easier.
But it's the same for a masters athlete as well. I'd say that's probably one of the reasons why you still haven't got in, because if you got in, gave it the time, you would be better than most of the masters athletes that's there, because you would have the foundational work. Let me
I would agree with that.
For me, it's the same. It was the same thing. I didn't want to be a masters athlete if I wasn't competing, and I wanted to win, because that's what I knew for most of my life when I was, when I was a professional athlete. So for me, getting back into it, that transitional period to get back into was really hard, because you're still in your mind running times. Yeah. So it's a matter of
you expect to run the times you used to. Yeah,
that's right. And you can't do it, and you got to get your head around that. And it's the purpose you want to do it. Yeah, I only wanted to do it if I could compete. But for me to be able to compete, there was a bit of work that I needed to put in. Yeah. On that, can I ask, you guys train, you said there's more and more masters athletes coming in, which I'm really glad that it's happening, because it's not just for, the masters athletes themselves, but it's really good for the community. It's good for mental health. Yeah. Our aging population's becoming bigger and bigger. I'm trying to get more and more people get involved in sports.
Yeah, good.
And track and field is, one of those things where it's not that hard to do, because you've got everything from a sprint to a cross country.
You've got a
that
lot
you
of
can be
events to
part of.
choose from. Yeah.
Correct. How do you train a masters athlete versus a junior athlete or an elite athlete?
I think it's the volume which we got to very much aware of. For a young kid, you can volume, you can tell them a lot of things. They recover like that the next day. Obviously, with a masters athlete, you got to be careful in how much volume you're going to make them go through.
Yeah.
And also more rest in between, I think, is the key. I mean, like, a lot of master athletes are very driven because that's something
Which
they've
is
done
correct.
athletics in the past. They've taken a break and now they're like, that's it. Let's go and train every day. So it's like kind of finding a balance for that, like having a hard session, recovery, still asking them to do certain things, go to the gym, go a stretch, do a light workout, but also keep it active, but having the sessions.
So with masters athletes that are coming into the program,
Yes.
what ages are you seeing? 35-year-olds or 55-year-olds roll in?
You have to be over 30.
Yeah, you have to be over 30. Fabio, he's a little bit he's about 60, early 60s. So he's
Running like a 50-year-old?
running like a 40-year-old, to be honest. Like,
So
he's running so fast.
He's an ex-athlete.
Ex-athlete, and just loves it. Yeah, ex-athlete. What was his?
Yeah, I don't know much about his background, but he definitely had a gap in between. Like, he was an athlete when he was young. I don't know at what level he competed at, but there was a gap. And then he started.
That's one of the
enjoying it.
good things, right? We don't really ask, we don't care if someone's been an elite athlete before. We probably our best, most successful female athlete didn't start running until she was 35. And she's won more medals and holds more records than any other track and field athlete in Australia.
It's incredible.
And she's a masters athlete. And she didn't start running until she's in her 30s.
And with those situations, it all depends on how much they've done. Like, if they've done athletics for 20 years as a junior and then all of a sudden try to get back into it later, your body's taking that toll. But if that, and they did it for a few years, gave it away, came back, they're fresh as a daisy, they're ready to go.
How do you take away the sort of, there used to be a lot of stigma about going and being a masters athlete, like if you're at elite level. How do we get more people to be involved in masters athletics?
But I think it's just going to naturally happen with the results and the way that athletics is building and the hype and the atmosphere around it. Like the Melbourne Track Classic, that was sold out for the first time in years and years and years. And that'll automatically make those masters athletes or ones that are thinking about getting into it. There's more hype around it. There's more master athletes going. Then that'll encourage them to automatically or give it a go.
So crowd attracts a crowd.
Crowd attracts a crowd. It's like anything. It's like when you support a rugby league team and they're losing, the crowds drop, and all of a sudden when they're winning again, the jersey comes out of the closet. So it's like with track and field. Track and field at the moment, like you said, we're having a golden era. With all these results, all of a sudden everyone is loving athletics, loving track and field.
So those old boys are dusting off the off the roffin.
Yeah. If he can, that'd be great. But no, a lot of others are. I can tell you, and they're thinking about it.
Well, it's interesting because of your pedigree with going to Churchie. Like, there's a big old boys culture at that school.
Cult. It's a cult. Yeah.
It's an absolute cult, and I think that's one thing in my brand that I'm wearing at the moment. That's what a passion I've got. So guys in their 50s, because so many blokes at my age, they were first 15 at school, they were first 11, and all of a sudden they go off and it's university, life gets in the way.
Yeah,
and then all the kids come. But then all of a sudden, you start to get the five rolling around with your age, and that's when you can contemplate, and chances are you might have a little bit of finance behind you, and it's like get back into something, but something that you enjoy doing, because I'm very, very much purpose-led, spirit-led, so it's something that you actually enjoy doing, and quite often that's something that you are good at.
Yeah,
but it doesn't necessarily have to be going back, donning on a rugby jersey, but just getting just movement.
It's purpose, right? You have to have the purpose.
Yes, and what I've found massively is, especially because of social media and things like that, your run clubs and everything are becoming such a massive cult in itself.
Run clubs have
run clubs have just blown up, and more in those 50 age groups as well. More and more are going because there's hundreds of other people there, so they feel more comfortable to go, and it's definitely an encouraging thing. More and more run clubs are definitely better.
Yeah, so bring on the masters athletes.
Bring on the masters athletes, and bring them on.
Some of the meets they're incorporating with all age groups, right? Like in Oceania last year.
Yeah, we at Oceania we have a few, and you got the big organizations leading the way too. So if you look at Masters Athletics in the US, is now part of USATF. I think we need that migration to happen across. There is a bit of a divide between how the masters programs run versus Athletics Australia programs in Australia. I think when we can, combine and collaborate more, start working together.
Yes.
Eventually, and that's what needs to happen. If you look at it, what's happening in the USATF, the masters athletes wear the same uniform as what the US team wears, whereas in Australia it's
you feel separate. If you make them feel part of it, it'll change that.
Correct. And what's the difference whether if you're juniors, the best way I put it is when you're a junior, you're improving with age, and that's where there is a separation in age gaps.
Yes.
And then you go to an open level, then that's elite. Yeah. And then at a certain age, there's the opposite of what happened before is happening again. So that's where the age groups are, because you're deteriorating at a different age level. Yep. So I think we've got the system put in place really to complement so people can be active and competitive for the rest of their lives if they want to.
Correct.
We just don't have the infrastructure and the politics looking at it in the same way. And if we do that, I think there's so much value that can be added to our mental health problems and also to our issues we're having in healthcare.
Agreed. Definitely. Before we wrap up and get into the quickfire questions, what haven't we talked about that we should talk about?
That's a good question itself. That's a very good question. Anything that comes to mind?
Today, I want to ask about your the camp that you guys are organizing, because that's something unique. I haven't seen a lot of it happening. Yeah. There's a few Melbourne clubs that do it, but this is very much an American thing, these sports camps.
Yeah,
and to get someone like Sally Pearson, probably one of the most successful athletes. I don't think people ever realize how good she was.
Oh, she was incredible. And she was around my time as I was coming through as an athlete, of watching her success, and Rajiv watched it as well, being around that, the athletic space as well. But this is our first camp. Future Athletics is definitely going in a direction I never thought it would be. I thought we was going to be sprints and hurdles, Rajiv and I, and we'd keep doing that. But now we've brought Michael Hillard on board to take care of our middle distance. Michael Hillard was a world indoor champion. He was sixth in the world for 1500, absolute world class, 2 semi-finals at the Olympics. He's come on board for Brisbane Grammar and also Future Athletics. He's taking care of our middle distance. We've got Eric Brown, who's taking care of our long jump now, long jump and triple jump. So he's come into that space. Eric Brown, obviously, very, very impressive coach, credentials-wise. So Duplin, Nash Maloney and the likes, many more. And he's taking care of our jump space. And what we've sort of put together now is a space where any event they want to do, they can come straight to us and they can come and get sprints and hurdles and middle distance, and we overlook the whole program. And we've found that that's worked really well, and that's probably sparked the idea of a camp, because we've got all these different groups. We train together, and the middle distance come and do some speed work with us, and the jumpers do speed work and then go to the jumps coach and things like that. But I definitely wanted a camp where we spend a bit more time together as a squad, getting to know each other, because we only see each other at the track and when we compete. So we got Sally Pearson on board. This is our first one this year down at Runaway Bay. Denise Boyd's coming down to do a bit of a talk about how her story was coming through as a junior and all the way through. And she was very impressive as a sprinter herself, holding Australian records as such. And Beck's coming down to do a nutritionist talk. We've got Kieran Cusack, who takes care of treating all our athletes. So he takes care of all their posture work as a young kid all the way through, the way they sleep, the way they walk, the way they run. He works really closely in that space and treats them when they have injuries. And luckily enough, they don't have too many now with him on board. So he's come and do a talk about what stretches to do during the week, before races, post races, and at night and before race day and things like that.
I've never heard of a posture coach before.
Oh, I was going to ask, what is a posture coach?
The best way to explain it, Rajiv actually sent me myself to Kieran when I was 12 years old, and because of rugby and things like that, my shoulders and everything used to just be slouched over, and I used to have the worst posture ever. And when I'd go to sprinting, I couldn't actually do what Rajiv asked me to, because I was tight here and I'd run like this and I was closed up, and he kept trying to say, open up and do this, but my body just wouldn't let me. Where Kieran he did some balance work with me. So he made a balance board and we did some balance work. He always worked on how my shoulders should sit when I'm sitting and things like that. like sitting down in a chair and while I was driving, things like that was wrong. So he actually made a cushion thing to go under on my seat to actually lift my hips up so I was sitting properly. So there's little things about even the way that I walked, about just getting off my heel a little bit, where I was very heavy on my feet, where it just taught me to be light on my feet, which then to sprinting was perfect because it was just all about spending less time on the ground, being less off my heel and things like that. So he actually fixed things later on in life, not just sprinting, but after I give sport away, how I should be sleeping and walking and sitting and everything. So he was definitely a game changer in that sports space for me. He was incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're on the Gold Coast, on the board of.
Gold Coast Academy of Sport.
Wow.
And then that's exciting. That'll be definitely something we'll have more to talk about. And the other thing, which is just off the topic as well, is we've got a clothing line dropping.
Pretty cool name, Future Athletics.
Future Athletics. Mate of mine actually, Andy, who's actually the clothes designer, he came from Future Aesthetics and then came with Future Athletics. So he thought of the name and went into that space. And
is that what you're wearing now?
Yeah. This isn't a clothing line now. This is just what we've got done, but I'm not wearing any of it just yet. I want to see it on everyone else.
You're actually creating a whole
clothing line. So it's going to be lifestyle and sportswear, men's and women's. So we're going to have sort of crop top and bottoms for our women athletes to run it and junior athletes. And then we'll have running singlets and running shorts and tights. And we've got socks and hoodies and trackies and just normal T-shirts, lifestyle gear as well. So hopefully we can see the parents in it and on the sidelines and things like that. So
athletics for fashion.
Athletics for fashion. So that's definitely not me. It's Andy. Andy's a clothes designer, a good mate of mine, Andy Wilson, and he's taking care of all that.
It's exciting. You're running.
It's exciting. So it's definitely expanding in a way that I never thought. I thought it was, like I said, it was just going to be sprints and hurdles, but now we're going to hopefully have a few people, might just be the family members of ours wearing our clothes, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Are we ready?
Ed, go for it.
Favorite track session to coach?
Easy, speed. They never complain during speed session.
The least favorite drill you had to do as an athlete?
I'd say A-skip. A-skip when I first started. Anything with a bit of coordination I struggled with for sure.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Olympics or world champs, which gave you more goosebumps?
Olympics all day long. Olympics is the be-all and end-all.
Yeah, Olympics. Yeah.
Who's the most inspiring athlete of all time?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Mine would have to be Michael Jordan for sure. Michael Jordan's probably my one.
What's the best piece of coaching advice that you've ever received?
I want to hear from Rajiv.
I would probably go with one of those Jesse Owens or one of those guys we didn't have much support, and then there's still, Muhammad Ali, what they took.
Yeah, and Usain Bolt's tough to go past as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Jesse Owens too, because a lot of people don't talk about Jesse Owens.
So the best piece of coaching advice you've ever received?
From Rajeev, to me, I'd probably say don't overthink it. Was definitely his. Don't overthink it. Simplify it. Was probably definitely the best one from Rajiv for sure.
Yeah, I would say sometimes we take it too seriously. When you're able to compete, you're not that important in this world. Just go and do it. Just go and compete. Relax.
One thing Rajiv always used to say: don't think, just run.
Speed or mindset? Which wins under pressure?
Speed.
You have to have the speed first, though.
You can have the best mindset. If you don't have the speed, you won't win.
Coffee order?
I'm a piccolo man myself.
Long black.
What song gets you fired up before a big session?
Oh, Here Comes the Boom was for me. That was my big one.
Oh, mine. You guys want to know some old Indian songs, which I can't sing. I love it.
Just say it because you'll find it.
Someone might know.
You can find it. Yeah.
One word athletes would use to describe you.
Describe me. Oh, one word.
Say what you.
Oh, I would
Why don't
say,
you every time?
You go first. You go yours first.
Mine. Okay. People think I'm very patient, though I'm not. My mind is racing.
Competitive.
Your coaching style in 3 words. How would you describe your coaching style?
In 3 words. Do your best.
More like a problem solver. Analyze it and solve the problem.
All right.
Yeah, that's right. Don't count. We're not great at maths.
This is Rajeev to Maddie. What's one thing he does better than you?
Communication, explaining things to parents, making people feel comfortable why they should be in the squad. Everything what I can't do, he does it.
And Maddie to Rajeev, what's one thing you admire about him?
Oh, admire about him. How well the athletes can respect him and look up to him. And his expertise in the field is just, unparalleled. He's just ridiculous in that field. But definitely just the respect he can get from athletes. As an athlete of his, now we're best mates, to have that relationship come was just a complete respect thing. Everyone has respect for Rajiv.
All right, final question. What's the one trait that you need to be a successful athlete?
One trait. Drive. Just drive.
Yep.
Yeah. Drive, determination.
Determination.
You want to do it.
Belief.
Yeah, if you never give up and you just believe in yourself and you're driven enough to just keep going, eventually good things will happen.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for taking the time to come in, boys. It's been an awesome conversation. Love what you guys are doing. Bring on that clothing range and bring on 2032. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time, guys.
Thanks, guys. All the best. Cheers.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this exciting episode of the Mastering Podcast. If you got value from today's conversation, hit that subscribe button now and share this episode with a friend. Until next time.